right, we're back on Sportsbet Betting Insight today, Wednesday, November 16th. Pauly and Teddy, deep dive. We'll get to the committee and the new top 25 in college football. Quite the conundrum coming up. We'll run down the scenarios, big game breakdown, Thursday night football, Saints and the Panthers, Louisville and Houston. In a Sun Belt matchup, Troy is ranked. They're at home against Arkansas State. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books, and NFL news. Let's start in the MAC, Teddy. Kent State was favored over Bowling Green. Whoops! What happened?
Well, let's see. Bowling Green won the game 42-7. They were the underdog. They won by 5 touchdowns. They were -3 in turnovers and won the game as underdog by 5 touchdowns. How about a 35-10 first down differential? The Falcons won the yardage battle by more than 300. They ran for 420 on the ground, and that's back-to-back wins for a Bowling Green team that was, 1-8 prior to the last couple of weeks. So the point of this, it was a bad bet for Kent State, but be aware of dead teams like Bowling Green that all of a sudden come to life in November. It happens a lot more with the first or second year head coaches than with guys that have been around for a while. BG, a prime example last night.
Yes, that's a bad bet. Also, the Portland Trail Blazers, very concerned about this team. They were lucky to beat Sacramento at home in overtime. Then they struggled with the Nuggets, and now they're home again last night. And they no-showed against the Bulls, who had a big lead at the end of one.
Oh, yeah. There was a lot of Portland money. Bad bets of 3.5 up to 4.5. It was Chicago 35-14 after one. Never got a whole lot closer than that. Blazers made a couple of runs. But, Portland was a team that overachieved last year. Certainly against their season win total, they overachieved by more than any other squad in the NBA. And we've seen signs that with that elite backcourt, they've got a pair of all-star guards. That hasn't been enough. The supporting cast in the front court for Portland really struggling in early season play.
Yes, bad beats our play of the day. Sparty, the over. I guess we weren't the only one who read those Izzo quotes about it could be a track meet. Again, Michigan State struggled to shoot.
Oh, struggled is not even the right word. Let's see. And that wasn't a bad beat. That was a bad bet for Sparty. There was money for Sparty, and there was money for the over. Michigan State shot 33% from the floor. They hit, 5 of 26 from three-point range. That's 19% for three-point range. They only hit 3 of 9 freaking free throws. 33% from the line. And only got there 9 times. 20 turnovers, only 9 assists. There wasn't a single Michigan State player that reached double digits. No player scored 10 points. It was a brick fest. The Wildcats played a little bit of D. Give credit to Kentucky for a strong defensive showing.
Yes, bad for the books. The other MAC game, Ohio was favored, and then Central Michigan went off the favorite. They won on senior night at home. They are bowl eligible.
Yeah, and we told you, what did we tell you on yesterday's show? Some senior nights mean more than others. And that was a meaningful senior night for the Chippewas last night. They took a ton of money. Not a good result for the house. The Bobcats opened -1. The Chips closed -1.5. Cooper Rush makes the plays, and then Ohio turns it over on their final 2 positions.
Yes. Nice steam job here with the Cavs total against Toronto. Bet up to 210. It was a high-scoring affair in that one. Cavs get the win.
Yeah, and normally you see not normally, but in general in the NBA, you're going to find the strongest correlation for totals has to do with free throw attempts. When you have games with 80 free throw attempts, they go over because you get all those points scored with the shot clock, with the clock being stopped. And when you have games with 20 or 30 free throw attempts, they tend to stay under because obviously the clock doesn't stop for all those free opportunities. But the other thing that correlates pretty strongly with totals over and unders is 3-pointers made. And last night, 26 made 3-pointers and better than 50% combined shooting from 2-point range. The Cavs look real comfortable in that lackluster defense, run and gun offensive style right about now. Bad result for the house as that total got steamed up, as you mentioned, 207 all the way to 210, even higher in some spots.
A lot of NFL news. Blair Walsh cut. It finally happened. Missed another extra point in the loss of the Redskins. So he's gone a week after they tried out a bunch of kickers. Michael was cut after. Now Rawls is back for Seattle. And here's some big news. Goff will start at home Sunday against the Dolphins. Keenum to the bench. And some Miami money coming in, Teddy, as a result.
Yeah, let's start with the Blair Walsh. Certainly, Minnesota's falling apart. All right, they're jettisoning players, but I don't think Blair Walsh could have walked back into that locker room without getting his ass kicked. He cost him a playoff game. He cost him a game earlier in the season. Was it the Lions game? And then again last week.
Yeah.
maybe it might have been for his physical safety, but Minnesota, who we loved, has now become a very chemistry challenged team, and they're starting to throw people under the bus. That's always a concern. You talk about Christine Michael getting cut for Seattle. Thomas Rawls back. Michael didn't do a whole lot. He's been cut. He's been cut everywhere he's been. But with Rawls back, that big bruising physical style of runner works very well in November and December football. Big addition for a Seahawks offense that's all of a sudden healthy right now. And then you talk about Jared Goff in, and then we've seen Miami money with Case Keenum out. Now, I'm not convinced that Goff was not very good in August. In the preseason, he was underwhelming. Let's put it that way. And perhaps is a reason that Jeff Fisher has kept him on the bench this long compared to, rookies like Dak Prescott, who've gotten obviously ample time, or Mariota and Winston last year and the likes, who also got ample time. But my power rating numbers, I cannot downgrade LA with the rookie QB because Case Keenum's been that bad. The Rams have won 2 games when they didn't even score a touchdown this year, which is impressive and speaks volumes about that defense. But it also says their QB play hasn't been good. When you have bad QB play and you get a spark, you get a change. To me, it can only be a spark. But that being said, no way I'm stepping on the Dolphins. That team is hot right now. And I think the money coming on Miami has as much to do with Miami playing well as it does with the LA QB change.
In my opinion, if you like the Giants, I'd bet them now. They're up to 7 against the Bears at home. And now, Jeffrey out with the suspension, Long out for the year, and Howard's banged up as well, and they did a horrible performance in Tampa.
Yeah, and the scary thing about the Tampa showing was that once it was a bad start for Cutler, there was no interest from him seemingly in turning it around. Some quarterbacks kind of dig and they make a mistake and they're yelling at each other themselves on the sideline. You see them come out the next drive and execute. And Cutler threw the one pick and it just kind of fed on itself. The first pick six, it was like the whole afternoon went based on that one bad throw. So you have the Cutler issue. And then you have the fact that defense quit, which is problematic for a defense that's been pretty good. And then, Kyle Long is an impact player for an offensive lineman. All right, this is a 2-7 football team that has to protect their quarterback. Now they can't protect their quarterback. And Alshon Jeffrey being out, his stats aren't going to blow you away. They're not eye-popping. 40 catches, 630 yards, only 1 touchdown. But what he does, he takes on the top cover cornerback from the opposing team. He draws some double teams. That opens the door for the likes of Cameron Meredith or Eddie Royal. Those two guys will not have the same level of production. Not their production has been great, but their production declines once Alshon Jeffrey's out. So you have a Chicago offense that was bad and now looks a whole lot worse.
Yes, quickly, I want your thoughts. An interesting press conference out of Tony Romo. I thought he was going to cry. At one point, I thought he was going to retire. He's going to stick around. He said it's hard to admit it's Prescott's team now, and he doesn't want to be a distraction. He is the backup quarterback. Probably played his final game in Dallas, barring an injury. What would you give up for Romo? 36 years old, China doll, only 2 playoff wins, makes a ton of money, but the quarterback play around the league stinks?
Yeah, honestly, I'd probably give up I might think about trading a number 1 pick for him. If I'm a team like Minnesota, what did the Vikings give up for Sam Bradford? Okay? And then you say, would you rather have Tony Romo or Sam Bradford for a year? I'd rather have Tony Romo in a New York Minute. So I think he's worth a first-round pick.
So good, yeah. Maybe the Jets, maybe Arizona to replace Palmer. Some good stuff out there from Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. Just throwing it out there. Up next, big game breakdown. We'll start in the NFL. Huge game. Saints and the Panthers. And Louisville and Houston. That's coming up. And the committee with the deep dive. College football on SportsBit. Betting insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Hey, we're back on SportsBit. Betting insight today. Time for a big game breakdown. Follow us on Twitter, by the way, at Pauly Howard, at Teddy_covers. As always, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. NFL, Saints hit the road to take on the Panthers. Carolina 3.5, 52 the total. They played last month. It was 41-38. It's 4-5 against 3-6. Carolina's season on the line. How much of last year's magic was the turnover differential? You look at this graphic. Last year, the Panthers were plus 20 in turnover differential. This year, minus 7. And Newton, we touched on it on Monday's show. The Mickey Mouse high school thrown it up for grabs, the pick 6. with a 17-6 lead in the fourth quarter, Teddy. And they also had an historic drive in that game that resulted in 0 points.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start with the first question. How much of the 2015 Carolina Magic was just turnover differential? And the answer appears to be a lot. They were a solid fundamental football team that made some breaks, but perhaps they were just a little bit too lucky. Plus 20, unsustainable. And you have to think right now Cam Newton's football gravity is coming back into play, or that of the Carolina Panthers. You talked about the awful play that Newton made, the bad decision with the pick six, but it wasn't just the pick six. Leading 13-3 in the third quarter, they go on a 20-play, 10-minute drive and end up with no points. They're second and 11 from the KC 21. Cam Newton gets sacked down back to the 28, and then he gets sacked again back to the 40, and then Graham Gano punts, and it's even a touchback. They don't even get the they don't pin him deep. If a score would have put the game away there, but Newton taking the back-to-back sacks that took him out of field goal range, he was the GOAT in that game. He wasn't the GOAT the last time they played New Orleans, but he was the GOAT this past Sunday.
For the Saints,
that doesn't happen a whole lot in Cam Newton's.
No, sorry, can Breeze keep this up? He was dynamite against Denver down the stretch. The last 19 passes had the highest possible passer rating, 158.3, 17 completions for 247 yards. How concerned are you about that Saints defense that they're running out of gas?
Well, let's talk about this, because when Drew, again, it's just the last 19 passes of the game. He completes 17. And with that perfect passer rating, that wasn't against some defense. That was against the Broncos defense. The defense that shut down Cam Newton and shut down Andrew Luck and shut down basically every good quarterback they faced. Now, maybe a little banged up, maybe a little gassed at the end of the ball game, but Drew Brees has been pretty good all year, and that's putting it mildly. And a Carolina secondary that's been problematic and couldn't stop him in the first meeting. I'm not convinced it's going to stop him here. The Saints defense, they got 6 sacks at Trevor Siemian. This is a defense that didn't have a pass rush. They hit him 11 times. They held the Broncos to 2.8 yards per carry. These are impressive numbers for a Saints team that hasn't had anything when you talk about impressive numbers in the defense side of the football. But when you allow 11 third down conversions and the defense is on the field for 83 plays, both of those are bad. And the 83 plays, that creates a very tough turnaround on a very short week. Seattle was able to do it, but you know what? New Orleans is not Seattle when it comes to defensive intensity. Let's put it that way.
You lean over again? Another shootout?
Wouldn't shock me, but I've got a lot of concerns right now with the Carolina Panthers. You say they have a chance to save their season. The chance to save their season came last week, and they had it, and they fumbled it away. I don't know that they bounced back from this most recent.
That's a good point. I was reading some of the quotes. Cam Newton said no reason to panic. You got to win out now, for God's sakes. You probably got to win out. I don't think 9-7 going to get you a playoff spot. That's how bad that interception was, and blowing that 17-0 lead. Big game on ESPN, 5 o'clock. Louisville and Houston. It was a bigger game a month and a half ago, but Louisville's 14, 68 the total, 9-1 against 8-2. This is a strange game. Now, that was very misleading last week, as Louisville was a 5-touchdown favorite at home to Wake. They trailed 12-10 with 10 minutes left. They win the game 44-12 as Petrino was rubbing it in. And this is something we'll get to in the deep dive, though. What's going on with Louisville here, Duke? The Virginia game, and then at home against Wake Forest. They're supposed to blow these teams out and get style points.
Well, again, what's going on with Louisville? Louisville is a very good football team. They are not the most amazing football team that anyone has ever seen. They're human, and they're kids, and they read the headlines, and they feel the pressure. And in tight games, they can be put in positions to choke it away a little bit, like we saw the number 2, the number 3, and the number 4 team in college football do just last week. And yeah, things broke right for them at the end of that Wake game. But the fact is, when you're trailing 12-10 in the fourth quarter against Wake and you win 44-12, it doesn't mean you played a great game. yards, 46 touchdowns now. The two losses, 46-40 in Navy, and the one game against SMU where the Mustangs played some pretty brilliant football on the Cougars side of the equation. Houston, both of those losses. The Navy loss had a hangover effect. The SMU loss was just one bad football game. But it's a Houston Cougars team. We know how good they can be when they are geared up for a particular opponent, something that Tom Herman's done pretty well over the last couple of years. They've been a very feisty underdog in this point.
I'm glad you brought that up. So some great quote. Yeah, most of these Houston guys know it now. They had their opportunity, had the big win against Oklahoma, and now the loss to Navy and SMU, as they mentioned. So what do they think about this game on national TV? They're right. This is their Super Bowl. This is their Super Bowl Thursday night.
Yeah, and check out, you want to have some fun? Go back to Herman, dating back to his tenure at Ohio State, and look at how his teams have done in the underdog role. I'll give you a hint. This is one of those games where when you look at that stat, you're not going to be betting against Houston on Thursday night.
Yes, more on this game coming up. One more, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Hey, Sunbelt, don't care. It's a ranked team, and it's on ESPNU, 6:30 Pacific. Arkansas State and Troy. Winner likely gets the Sunbelt title, barring an epic collapse. Troy is 8, 55.5 the total. They are 9-1, and they are ranked for the first time in school history. 8-1, excuse me. And they are ranked for the first time in school history. It's also the first time that a Sunbelt team is ranked. Remember, Troy's only loss was by 6 points in Death Valley to Clemson. So this team can play.
And when you talk about power rating differentials, the biggest movers for me in college football this year, obviously, Central Florida, a team that went 0-12 last year. The Colorado Buffaloes, a team that had been bad in every recent season. And these Troy Trojans. Those are the three biggest risers from where I had them ranked at the end of August prior to week 1 and where they are right now. Yeah, they're 8-1. Their only losses in competitive fashion at Clemson. 38 points per game, but two concerns for me for Troy in this ball game. Number one, here's a team that's not used to any spotlight. Now they got a spotlight. Here's a team that's not used to being ranked, and now they're ranked. Here's a conference that's not used to having a team in the spotlight and being ranked. And now it's all happening, and we see it happen every year. You start reading the press clippings, you start seeing the headlines, you start feeling the pressure. I worry about Troy in that regard. And the second thing, this Arkansas State defense, they have very shaky quarterback play. I'm not impressed with Justice Hansen, but I'm very impressed with that Arkansas State defense. It has been dynamite in recent weeks, and that could be the difference maker here.
Number 3 scoring defense in the conference, and Neil Brown doing a good job turning that program around after some high-profile OC jobs. They have a good quarterback, good coach. I am 100% with you, though, about you're in different territory now. Now everyone's pumping your tires and telling you how great you are. Oh, my God, you're ranked. And they're at home. So more distractions there, too. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, Brandon Silvers, he's thrown for over 2,300 yards. He's got 18 touchdown passes. He's the type of quarterback that has made Neil Brown very, very happy this year. But it's an Arkansas State defense. We talked about them a couple of weeks ago when they won outright over Georgia Southern in a game where they were -5 in turnovers. And we've seen similar defensive efforts since. The QB plays shaky. The defense has been dynamite.
Up next, the deep dive. What a mess for the committee. We'll get to the latest rankings, compare the top 10 that Teddy gave out on Tuesday's show. We'll run it down, all the scenarios coming up, and the play of the day on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Wrapping it up on SportsBit, Betting Insight today, time for the deep dive. Yesterday, the committee had their TV show again. Top 25 came out. What would they do with what happened with 2, 3, and 4 losing? Michigan was number 3. They lost and didn't move. So here's the top 10, Teddy. And we went through yours on Tuesday's show. You can see the difference there on some of the teams. But I'll tell you, the big thing's going to be what happens in the Big Ten. Because the big conundrum is going to be if Ohio State beats Michigan and Penn State wins out, Penn State will be in the Big Ten title game, and Ohio State sitting there at number 2. So actually, they could get rewarded for not winning their conference and sit back and relax. And then how will they use the head-to-head? Because Michigan beat Penn State by 40, and Ohio State lost to Penn State. This is a mess for the committee in a couple weeks.
It's always a mess for the committee because it's not a situation that's ever going to neatly separate itself into, oh, it's definitely these 4 teams and everybody else is clearly worse. It's always going to be a mess. It's always going to come down to conference championship weekend. And all of this stuff right now is designed to do one thing. It's designed to get casual fans talking about college football, which helps improve ratings. It's designed to make money. There's nothing to this. There's no handicapping to any of these numbers. They're trying to make money. ESPN sells the show, they sell advertising, they sell these ratings, and the ratings come out every week, and we talk about the ratings every week. They have nothing to do with anything, and they're all going to change between now and the end of the year. So it's just discussion points. Now, the biggest difference between the ratings from the committee and my ratings is, of course, I'm based moving forward. I'm looking at power ratings, because I don't care what happened in the past. How do I power rate this team moving forward? Which means I'm not worried about putting 2 or 3 lost teams near the top of my ratings, which means I've got USC and LSU both in my top 10. The committee has to worry about losses because that's their thing. Oh, you lose, you're out, which I guess it should be. But they're not going to have a USC at number 5 or an LSU at number 9, even though here in Las Vegas, both of those teams are currently power rated. Not just me, across the board, you're going to see those as top 10 power rated teams.
Win and in, no style points needed. Alabama, Michigan, and Clemson. Clemson is 4, Louisville's 5. Clemson beat Louisville head-to-head, and if Clemson wins out, they're the ACC champs, so they'll be in as well. Louisville's going to need help and a lot of chaos, and also some good news for Washington. Stanford is now ranked, so they have 2 wins over ranked teams. There's still a scenario where they could add a couple more and they beat Washington State in the Apple Cup. They could get USC in a rematch in the Pac-12 title game, or they're going to get Utah again or Colorado. They also are ahead of Wisconsin, which I know Barry Alvarez, according to reports, runs that room, but still I'd be encouraged if I'm a Washington fan that they are sitting there at number 6 and Wisconsin's number 7.
Okay, let's start with the win and in concept. There's 3 teams. 3 left that have no interest or no need to run up any scores. There are no style points needed for Alabama, Michigan, or Clemson. At this stage of the season, when we're talking about teams at this level, very difficult for me to start laying some of the big prices with these type of squads against lesser competition. Maybe you want Michigan against Ohio State. I know I don't want them this week. You're not getting the right price. And then, of course, there's that next group. He talked about Washington. I mean, Stanford being ranked. Is Stanford really a top 25 team? Are they ranked by the committee?
Stanford's in there, yeah.
Oh my God. Well, whatever. I mean, it is what
They're
it is.
24th.
But what about West Virginia? To me, that's the interesting thing. You have Colorado at 10. You have West Virginia at 14. You have 2 conferences that are right now underrepresented in terms of the Big 12 and the Pac-12. And that might continue moving forward, Pauly, doesn't it?
Well, in terms of great insight, I can't give it to you on this one because these guys can do whatever they want. There's no rules. I mean, here's what they asked. This is from Stuart Mandel, Fox Sports. He said, why is West Virginia 14th? They only have 1 loss. They've had a pretty good season. The committee chair said they played 1 top 25 team, Oklahoma State, and they lost. So the follow-up question was, well, why the hell is Oklahoma 9th then? They don't have a good win, and they have 2 losses. The answer was tremendous offense. Oh, my God. It's a clown show, man.
Well, it is what it is. You have administrators, athletic administrators trying to sift through statistics. They don't mesh well together, Pauly. They really don't. And you're going to get nonsense, Geico, garbage in, garbage out, G-I-G-O. Not Geico, the car commercial. That's something from an old accounting class. But garbage in, garbage out. If you don't know how to use good data and you're not making good decisions based on the data that you have, and you have a committee chairman that has no rules. The same thing with March Madness. There's no rules. It's just what do you guys think? Go figure it out. That's the nature of what we have, Paul, and it's our job as handicappers to try to take advantage of some of these teams that may be a little bit over or undervalued based on their ranking, and try to find teams that may be a little bit motivated or not motivated at all. Again, based on their actual situation.
Other surprises, Boise State now ahead of Western Michigan, non-power fives to get that New Year's Six bowl game. Boise State still needs another Wyoming loss to get in the Mountain West title game. That surprised a couple people. And Washington State, they've won 8 in a row. They can't move. They don't move. They still sit there at 22 every week. And the Leach is doing an excellent job there. Oh, that will change those. They play number 10, Colorado, coming up. Money time. Play of the day. Let's get back on track. Betting number 312. We're taking Houston plus the 14. You made the excellent point about Herman as a dog. We know how he's done in the big games as a dog. And all the players are saying the right thing. It is their Super Bowl. They are on national TV. And the pressure's getting to Louisville. I mean, they're laying 30 points in these games, and they're almost losing. They couldn't put away Wake Forest until late in the fourth quarter. Greg Ward will move the ball. This will be a close game. 2 touchdowns at home? Yes. Absolutely. It's Houston Super Bowl. We'll take the 14. Again, betting number 312. We're back with the college football rundown on Thursday. We'll recap everything, and NFL on Friday, NBA. You know what we do here on SportsBit. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. Thanks for watching. We'll see you then on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.